Hello and welcome to Art Song Notes. My name is Cara Alfano. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Loveliest of Trees with music by Joan and poetry by A.E. Housman. Now, this is one of my favorite English art songs to assign beginning voice students for a number of reasons, some of which are the accessibility of the poetry, the descending nature of the vocal line that is so great for teaching healthy vocal technique, and just the memorable melody itself. So in today's video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the origins of the poetry and the music. We're going to dissect the poetry and see how it works so beautifully with the compositional structure of the music. And then I'll leave you with some helpful vocal technique tips to aid you in your practicing of this splendid little English art song. The text of Loveliest of Trees comes from A.E. Housman's A Shropshire Lad, which is a collection of 63 poems having to do with the themes of masculine youth, passion, loss, and death. It was published in 1896. Now, just a side note, this collection of poetry was taken by many a young British lad to the front during World War I because the poems really spoke to these young soldiers. They were living out some of the experiences that were had in these poems. Now, Loveliest of Trees, The Cherry Now, is the second poem in this collection, and it has to do with the fleeting nature of time as seen through the eyes of a young adult. John Duke took this poem and set it to music for voice and piano in 1934. So now let's talk a little bit about the structure and the meaning of the poetry in Loveliest of Trees. The poem consists of 3 quatrains with the rhyming scheme of A, A, B, B. The text of Loveliest of Trees reads as follows. Loveliest of trees, the cherry now is hung with bloom along the bough, and stands about the woodland ride wearing white for Eastertide. Now of my 80 years and 10, 20 will not come again. And take from 70 springs a score, it only leaves me 50 more. And since to look at things in bloom, 50 springs are little room, about the woodlands I will go to see the cherry hung with snow. So now let's talk about the meaning of the text. Well, the first quatrain paints us a picture of springtime. The cherry tree, which is the loveliest of trees, is in bloom, and many of these white-flowered trees line the way of the woodland path taken by you, the singer-storyteller. In the second quatrain, you note that you're possibly 70 years on this earth, which is 80 years and 10, or if you're going to look at it in a mathematical equation, 60 plus 10. You have already lived 20 years. So you anticipate maybe 50 more springs, or in other words, years, of your life left to be lived. In the third quatrain, you acknowledge that 50 years is not very long. So you will go on your way grateful for the white blooms of the blossoming cherry trees which surround you. So now that we've talked about the poetry, let's take a look at the music. Loveliest of Trees is in the ternary form, which means it's in an A-B-A form. Although really, the second A section is not a true repeat of the first A section, but rather it uses many of the same musical phrases, but in a different order and with some other minor note differences. So really, it may be more correct to consider it to be an A-B-A prime form. The song begins in a major key with a tempo of allegretto grazioso, which means fairly fast and lively and gracefully. As we approach the more introspective portion of the song, the B section, or the second quatrain of the poem, the key modulates to the parallel minor, and the tempo marking is più animato, which means more animated. The music feels more serious, contemplative, and slightly anxious. When we come to the A prime section, which is the third quatrain of the poem, the music returns to the original major key. and we hear many of the same musical phrases from the beginning of the song. Now here are some helpful vocal technique tips to aid you in your practicing of Loveliest of Trees. Number 1, sing through your vowels and don't close down to the consonants as you descend on that opening phrase. It can get very tempting to close your mouth and close down those vowels as you descend and sing lower pitches. Number 2, be careful to count the rest correctly in the B section before the phrase and take from 70 springs a score. Take the entire 1.5 beats to breathe before entering, and make sure you count in your head. Number 3, take an expressive breath before the phrase 50 more in that B section. You will most likely need that breath in order to sustain that note on the word more. Number 4, take a breath on the vowel of and as you go into that A prime section. That will actually help you tune the A natural because your ear has been used to an A flat from the minor section. And number 5, don't rush through the fermata on the word hung at the end of the song. Be prepared with a great energized breath intake prior to that word so that you can sing the word hung with warmth and intention. And hey, you may even play with a little crescendo decrescendo on that note. Well, thank you so much for joining me here at Art Song Notes today. I encourage you to take a look at some of the other videos here on this channel and of course, subscribe to this channel. Until next time, happy singing.